In this lesson, we're going to take a look at the probabilities of hitting some certain dartboards. So if you take a look at number 1, if you take a look at the top dartboard, the question is, what's the probability that you would hit section A, which is this section right here? Okay. Well, if you look at that dartboard, it's broken into 3 different sections, and each section has equal space. So the total possibilities of sections you could hit are 3. And A is one of those 3 sections. So the probability that you would hit section A would be 1 out of 3. If you divide that, you get 0.3 repeating, which is the same as, if you write this out, it looks like this. And if we move the decimal 2 places, that's 33.3 repeating percent. All right. So number 2 is, what's the probability of not hitting A? Okay. Well, there are 2 sections that are not A. So your probability of not getting A would be 2 out of the 3 total sections. If you divide that, you get 0.6 repeating, which is 66.6 repeating percent. And the last question is, what's the probability of getting A or B? Well, A or B, that's 2 out of the 3 sections, which if you divide is 0.6 repeating again, which is the same as 66.6 repeating percent. So those are some examples of the top dartboard. Now the bottom dartboard gets a little bit more tricky because we have 3 sections now, but they don't all have the same area. Okay, so what's the probability of hitting A? Okay, well, what I would do is break the dartboard into equal pieces. So if I drew this line here and drew this line down here, okay, and then these pieces, it's actually cut in half one more time. So if I do this, now all the pieces are equal, okay? C and B are here, and then this would be A, and A. So the question is, what's the probability of hitting A? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sections that have A's in them out of 8 total. And you can divide both of these by 2, so it simplifies to 3/4. When you divide, you get 0.75, which is the same as 75%. So the probability of hitting section A would be 3 out of 4, or 75%. All right, what's the probability of hitting B or C? Well, B or C, that's 2 sections out of the 8 possibilities. You can divide these each by 2, and it simplifies to 1/4. When you divide 1 by 4, you get 0.25, which is the same as 25%. And the last one says, what's the probability of not hitting B? Well, B is one of the sections. This is not B, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there are 7 sections that are not B out of the 8 possibilities. And if we do 7 divided by 8, we get 0.875, which is the same as 87.5%, or you could say 88%. So the probability of not hitting B would be 87.5% or 88%. Let's take a look. All right, so this one says, what's the probability of hitting E? Well, again, this board is not broken up into equal pieces, okay? But notice how this section here is 1/4 of the board, and this section is also 1/4. And whether you draw the line diagonally, like we see in this one, or horizontally here, you're cutting those pieces in half. So really, A, B, C, and D all have equal area because they're each half of a quarter, or they're each half of a quarter. So the probability of hitting E, if we take a look at this, would be, if I break this into equal pieces, I'm going to cut this down the center, and cut these each down the half. So that means there are 8 total pieces, and E makes up 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, which is the same as 1/2 because you can divide them each by half, or by 2, excuse me. This simplifies to 0.5, which is the same as 50%. All right. All right, the next one says, what is the probability of getting A or B? Well, A or B, those are 2 sections out of the 8 total. You can divide those both by 2, so it simplifies to 1/4, which when you divide is 0.25 or 25%. All right, the probability of getting A. Well, A is just 1 section out of the 8 total, and 1 divided by 8 does not simplify. When you divide, you get 0.125, which is the same as 12.5%. Or you could say 13% if you rounded. All right, the last one says A or D, okay? Well, A or D, that's 2 sections out of the 8 total. You can divide those both by 2, and it simplifies to 1/4, which is the same as 0.25 or 25%. So the probability of getting A or D would be 25%. So those are some examples of how to find some probabilities from dartboards.